Eva stared at the brown ring on her desk, the ghost of yesterday's coffee cup, and felt something crack inside her chest. Not her heart. Something smaller. More specific. The part of her that used to wake up excited for Monday mornings. 3 years ago, she'd loved this job. Genuinely loved it. The kind of love where you'd stay late not because you had to, but because solving problems felt like winning a game. But today she was Googling how to fake your own death and start over in Costa Rica during her lunch break. The workplace conflict that was slowly destroying her wasn't some corporate drama you'd see in a Netflix series. There was no evil boss or company scandal, just two coworkers, Karen from accounting and Derek from operations, who had somehow made it their personal mission to turn every workday into a psychological obstacle course. And the worst part? Nobody else seemed to notice. Here's what you need to understand about toxic coworkers. They're not always the screamers or the obvious bullies. Sometimes they're the eye rollers during your presentations, the people who forget to include you in important emails, the ones who sigh just loud enough when you speak in meetings. Karen had perfected the art of the backhanded compliment. "Oh, Eva finished the report already. Wow, I guess when you don't have kids, you have so much free time." Derek specialized in public undermining disguised as jokes. "Let's hear from Eva. She always has, interesting ideas," he'd say, making interesting sound like delusional. For months, Eva tried everything in the traditional playbook. She stayed professional. She killed them with kindness. She documented incidents. She even tried talking to HR, who nodded sympathetically and suggested improved communication strategies, which was corporate speak for figure it out yourself. Nothing changed, except Eva. She started dreading her inbox. Her stomach would knot every time she saw either of their names on her calendar. She'd rehearse conversations in the shower, preparing for conflicts that might not even happen. She was living in their heads rent-free, while they lived in hers like squatters. The breaking point came on a Wednesday. Derek had interrupted her during a client presentation, the third time in 20 minutes, to correct information that was completely accurate. Karen had smirked from across the conference table. Eva felt her face flush, her mind go blank, and her carefully prepared thoughts scatter like startled birds. After the meeting, she locked herself in the bathroom stall and cried. Then she got angry at herself for crying. Then she got angry at Derek and Karen for making her cry. Then she got tired of being angry. That night, sitting in her apartment with cold takeout and a sense of defeat, she did something she'd never done before. She opened ChatGPT. Not to ask for generic advice, but to actually think through what was happening. She typed, "Why do I let two people ruin something I used to love?" The conversation that followed wasn't what she expected. No platitudes about rising above it or being the bigger person. Instead, the AI asked questions that made her uncomfortable. What exactly are you afraid will happen if you directly address this? What evidence do you have that staying silent is working? What would you tell your best friend to do in this situation? That last question hit different because Eva knew exactly what she'd tell a friend. Stop waiting for them to change. Stop hoping someone else will fix this. You already know what needs to happen. She just hadn't been willing to do it herself. Here's where the story takes a turn you might not expect. Eva didn't confront Karen and Derek in some dramatic showdown. She didn't quit in a blaze of glory. She didn't even report them again. Instead, she did something that terrified her more than any of those options. She stepped completely out of her comfort zone and changed her entire approach to resolving conflict at work. First, she stopped avoiding them. When Derek made one of his undermining jokes in the next meeting, Eva didn't shrink. She looked him directly in the eye and said calmly, "Derek, I've noticed you often reframe my suggestions as jokes. If you have actual concerns about my ideas, I'd prefer you share them directly so we can discuss them professionally." The room went silent. Derek's smile froze. He stammered something about just kidding around and moved on. But something had shifted. With Karen, Eva tried something different. The next time Karen made a passive-aggressive comment about her free time, Eva responded with genuine curiosity instead of defense. "Karen, I'm sensing some frustration. Is there something about workload distribution that feels unfair? Let's talk about it." Karen wasn't prepared for that. Nobody had ever called her bluff. She deflected, but the comment stung less because Eva had refused to accept the hidden message. The real breakthrough came when Eva realized something crucial. She'd been trying to change Karen and Derek's behavior, but the only behavior she could actually control was her own response to workplace conflict. She started using ChatGPT not as a magic solution, but as a thinking partner. Before difficult interactions, she'd map out possible responses. After confrontations, she'd process what happened and adjust her approach. She experimented with different communication styles: direct, curious, boundaried, neutral, and tracked what worked. She discovered that Derek backed down when addressed immediately and publicly. Karen responded better to private, direct conversations. Neither of them liked witnesses to their toxicity, which meant Eva's strategy of naming their behavior in the moment was surprisingly effective. More importantly, Eva rebuilt her relationship with her job by protecting her mental space. She stopped rehearsing conversations. She stopped interpreting every email as a potential attack. She started focusing on the work she loved: the problem solving, the client relationships, the creative projects, and treated Karen and Derek like weather. Unpleasant sometimes, but not worth organizing your whole life around. 3 months later, something interesting happened. Derek transferred to another department, not because Eva reported him, but because, according to office gossip, he'd tried his undermining routine with someone in senior leadership who'd shut it down immediately. Turns out when you build a reputation as the person who makes jokes at others' expense, eventually it catches up to you. Karen was still there, still occasionally passive-aggressive, but the dynamic had fundamentally changed. Eva had stopped giving her comments power, and without that reaction, Karen's behavior lost most of its impact. They'd never be friends, but they reached a workable détente. More importantly, Eva had changed. She wasn't the person who cried in bathroom stalls anymore. She was someone who knew how to navigate workplace conflict without losing herself in the process. Eva still has that coffee stain on her desk, but now when she looks at it, she doesn't see evidence of decay. She sees a reminder that some stains are just stains, not omens, not symbols, not signs of everything falling apart. Sometimes a coffee ring is just a coffee ring, and sometimes toxic coworkers are just an obstacle, not a life sentence. The question is, what are you going to do about it?